We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Welcome back to another episode of the Golden Block Podcast, the Bearcast. We are here after the UW win, emphatic win. We did it. We did it. 2-0. Still one of the old, I don't know how many undefeated teams there are in the country, but some of the few undefeated teams in the country. There was that Fox Sports tweet that had like all the undefeated teams. We were on there.
Yeah.
As a really small Cal script. Like Clemson's was like an eighth of the page.
Every week I text my two most diehard friends that are Oregon fans. And the text says, depending on our record, oh, you aren't 2-0? Don't know the feeling.
Can't relate.
Yeah. So they're loving me.
Oh, man. All right. I mean, I guess first a couple things of housekeeping. If you don't know, this is the Bearcast, and you can find us anywhere. Wherever you're listening to this right now, you have somehow found us. So once again, please give us a like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. You can also email us at cgbbearcast@gmail.com for any questions. I put out a tweet earlier today asking if people had questions and to email cgbbearcast@gmail.com. One person emailed. About 8 people replied to the tweet with questions.
I'm thinking we go to what the people want and we just let them ask questions there and not force them to write an email.
The only reason I asked them to send an email is just so it's easier for us to aggregate that before. Because otherwise we have to like search through the tweet and like look through the replies to figure out where it was. But then an email, it's just you just have them all there in your inbox, right? So
glad we started today off with our old man complaining.
I know, right? It just makes it easier. Please help us make this easier. But yeah, how was your weekend, Andy? I know you spent the weekend in New Orleans.
Yeah, I tried to tweet a little bit about it. So I had this grand plan being down in New Orleans. I was going to watch. So I had bought Galactic tickets, and Galactic, if you haven't heard of them, is awesome funk bands. If you ever see them in town, go see them. Great. One of the better funk bands to come out of New Orleans. And they're playing at Tipitina's, which is like a legendary venue down there. And so I bought these tickets fully knowing that the Cal game was starting at 9:30. So here's my logic. And in my head was, okay, Cal game's going to start at 9:30. Show starts at 10. And then I would miss the opening act, get to the show maybe 11:45, 12, and see the majority of the Cal game. Well, that didn't happen. 4 minutes into the game, lightning strikes 8 miles away. Everybody leaves the field, and I'm immediately like, wow, this is going to be really interesting. So decide at that moment that it's time to go to the concert. Go to the concert till
Smart move.
1:30 in the morning. Great set. Come back. Go to Bourbon Street to grab a slice of pizza. And then go back to the hotel room, and I caught the entire second half till 3:45 in the morning. And I was in the hotel room, and you were trying to call me.
Yeah, I was.
I could not talk because I had already gotten in trouble for yelling at the television when that wasn't called. And I will come back to this. When it was not called a touchdown, when it was called a touchdown, I turned around to my wife, and I let's go.
When
right?
it was called a touchdown.
Or sorry.
Wait.
When Kakoa got the ball down, sorry, that was wrong. When Kakoa got the ball down
to like a 3-yard line.
To the 3,
Yeah.
I got a let's effing go.
Yeah.
Then when I thought it was a touchdown.
When everyone thought it was a touchdown.
I screamed. and then I will literally, I guess we're no longer like safe for work. So I can say this. I turn when the refs aren't calling a touchdown. I turn them off. They're fucking us again. And she's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? And the walls at the Hilton are super thin. Like I've heard conversations like the whole time I've been staying there. So yeah, it was one of those funny nights. I was supposed to go watch the game at Manning's and like be at this classic venue, but like everything just like worked a different way. And so I ended up kind of watching in isolation, but sometimes it's better because, you know, I'm tough to be around in those moments.
Unless you're one of those as well.
Unless you're, like, you know, the diehard Cal types. Because otherwise, you're looking at me like, dude, like, what is going on?
That was the exact same thing for me. I was in LA for a wedding. Wedding ended. So the wedding venue closed at 9:30. So I was like, okay, my expectation was, all right, I'll miss the first half. The game started at 7:30. I'll, you know, grab one of the empty handles or bottles that they have at the wedding.
A handle?
As I'm leaving.
You were expecting the L.
I know. And I was going to head back to the hotel and watch the game, you know, in peace and silence. All that happens. So the wedding, here's my little story. All right. You gave a story, so I'm going to give a story too. Wedding ended at 9:30. Lots and lots of drunk people, of course. Wedding. We go back to my hotel room because there were a couple people that were way too drunk to get themselves home. We lay them out on my bed.
Wow.
Then me and a friend decide to go to the Airbnb where the bridal party was staying at because they wanted to hang out a little bit more. Go there. Then her brother calls and is in Koreatown. We're in Pasadena, by the way. Is in Koreatown, and he needs a pickup because he got drunk with his friends just on a night out, and she lives in Chino Hills. So we go to K-Town, we pick him up, we go back to my hotel, grab the two people that are knocked out, put her in her car. She takes them back to her place in Chino Hills so they can all knock out because she lives with her parents. So like they have rooms. That's approximately 1. When I got back,
have you been following the game at all at this point?
I was following the stat feed that we use when we're in the stadium. And so I'm following. I get back to the hotel and I turn on the TV. It's about 1. It's like right entering into the fourth quarter. So I was like, what the hell is going on right now? It's 1 a.m. and it's about to enter the fourth quarter. Yeah. And so I had worn my Oski socks all day at the wedding because, of course, game day. So I needed something Cal. I immediately changed into my Cal football t-shirt, which I brought with me, by the way. And I wore a Cal sweater down just because it's cold up here and it's hot down there. So airplane, air conditioning, all that. So I put all that on, blast the AC to like 72 degrees. And I'm watching the game alone, of course, in the hotel room. And then I can't watch the kick. I think it's the alcohol that was in me at the time. Like I was just way too like, you know, I was just like, I can't watch this. So I turn on the TV volume to about like 35 and I go face plant on the bed and I hear the snap. I hear the kick and I'm just waiting for the announcers to say, and he misses it wide right. But then no, of course we get and he knocks it through the uprights and I jump off the bed and I just I run in front of the TV and I just stand there with my arms wide, like the Leonardo da Vinci,
hero pose.
The hero pose.
Yeah.
And I'm just standing. I legitimately, I think, stood there for about 5 minutes in that pose. And this was after the replays of the field goal too. So I didn't even get to see the actual field goal happen. And then, so I didn't see that field goal until I checked Twitter the morning after at like 7:30 in the morning. And then I saw Cal Football's Twitter feed, and it had the replay of the field goal in live time. And I tweeted it out. I was like, "This is the first time I've seen a field goal in real time." Oh,
I was close. I mean, I had a moment of, do I just do the exact same thing that you described? Because where I was watching television, it made a lot of sense. I was like, do I even watch this? So I guess this will just blend perfectly into one of the points that I have, which is if it wasn't the most like. So all right, I wrote this down well.
I also just want to point out to all the listeners, Andy and I are texting throughout this entire last 3 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just need to talk to someone. That's why I'm calling Andy. Andy's like, I can't pick up the phone right now, and he's texting me back.
Like, you're calling me now? Like, come on. Like hanging on by a thread here. Okay, so point number 1.
Okay.
That was a touchdown.
Oh, by the way, this is how we're going the podcast schedule for the rest of the year now. We had a lot of good feedback about the setup instead of doing what we had done in years past with these little 6 points going back and forth talking about the game, and if they overlap or if we don't agree with each other's points, kind of talking about it. And I think people like this a lot more. So this will be the format of the podcast going forward.
Yeah.
So I just want to let people know, because we said last week, we're like, this is experimental. We're not sure if we'll keep it this way. But I think people liked it, so this is the format we're staying. So
yeah, and leave comments. We love comments.
We do.
All comments.
We do.
So if you have thoughts on format or what
sound
you like,
quality,
what you don't like, yeah, leave the comments. It helps a ton.
Yep, it really does. All right, Andy, first point. Go.
Okay, so that was a touchdown, and I could probably rant on that for a while. So I'll go through my key points. It is an unbelievably bad call for the referees to not have called it a touchdown on the field.
The original call
should have been a touchdown, and then they go to review it on the fact that it was a touchdown. 3/4 of the man's body were in the end zone. My buddy today, Antonio, shout out Antonio, I was talking about this with him at softball. And he said the only way it wasn't a touchdown is if a referee saw Chris Brown holding the ball at his ankles. And I was like, that's exactly right. And obviously he wasn't holding the ball at the ankles. So anyways, I was quite livid about this and still am. Because from the referee's perspective, even if you're blocked, if you see the full body in the end zone, to have placed the ball where they did and then to have made that call, it just defies all logic. And it was the most classically Cal thing that I had seen, in some time, maybe since the Cheez-It Bowl. But this one in particular, because of, was not. In some ways, this game reminded me of that a little bit. So I wanted to ask you,
okay,
if it was classically Cal, how do we lose that game?
How do we lose that game? What's the other parallel universe version of this game is what you're asking?
Right. So, because that's where my head was at. I was like, something goes wrong. And I have a list of things that could have gone wrong. So then the last one's a joke. So I want to see which ones check off the list.
Check any of them off the list. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So that was third down, by the way.
Yeah.
That was third down. So we only have one more down to kick it.
Yeah, exactly.
With about, I think, was it 12 seconds left on the clock, I believe? Something like that, because they ended up with 8 after the kickoff, and they
had 8. I remember they having 8 left. I don't know how much.
Yeah, I think it takes about 4 seconds for the kick to go through. So, all right. Well, first the easy one is we missed the field goal.
Yep.
Second one is we muff the snap.
Yep. That's my third.
Mm-hmm. Another one is we try to fake it and go for the killer. And we either fumble and we don't get in the end zone.
That's great. That was my joke. That was my joke one,
yeah.
but
that's the farthest one apart.
That's the fourth.
Okay. Do I got another one?
There's one obvious one you're missing.
Am I?
Yeah.
Oh wow. What is the obvious one?
Well,
I felt like missing the field goal would be the obvious one.
Yeah, but there's multiple ways that you can.
Oh, a doink.
Well, that. But I was actually thinking he gets blocked. So you have missed field goal, wide left, wide right, or whatever. Blocked field goal, fumbled snap, fake field goal. Those were my 4. You can obviously have the upright. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have the doink. I mean, we did have a doink in this game, right? That 50-yarder by that Washington kicker to knock it in. And man. That was when I just kind of felt, oh, okay, this is going to be Washington's game, isn't it?
That was when you text me.
Yeah, that was when I texted you and I said, I think this game's over.
Yep.
Yeah, this doesn't have the feeling of it.
Yep. So that was my first point.
Those are some good parallel universe situations.
It's just where my head was at. it's been a lifetime of crazy things happening. Like, and
you know what though?
The beautiful thing about this era right now is it just, when you say classic Cal, it just doesn't seem to go that direction.
No, it doesn't.
You
know, I will say though, my heart sank to my stomach when they ran their version of the play, and Eason passes it out wide, I think, to Fuller, and then Fuller throws it back to Eason. And when Eason caught that second ball, and I was like, oh no. There was a split second when Eason caught it, because they completed 2 passes on that, right? And I was like, oh, please get him down, because he's the most immobile out of probably the guys they had trying to push down the field. So you have to get him down here. Otherwise, everyone's in disarray because everyone's shifting from sideline to sideline. And like if the third one completes, I'm like, we have no idea what's going to happen. So this is where we needed to kill it. Thankfully, we did.
I carried the same level of, like, I don't know if it's fear or anxiety or just like
it's everything,
emotion.
It's everything.
It was just at a very steady level from a very long time, and then trying to go to bed. So obviously you have like the Twitter storm after, just like the best moments on Cal Twitter are always after these types of wins
or losses.
You just tweet anything you want. You could tweet the alphabet, and people will give you like 45 likes for it, and be like, "Awesome, this guy's having a good time." And then trying to go to sleep because it's 3:45 in the morning, and I've decided that I'm going to wake up early, of course, after all this, and go to a spin class. So,
by the way, I tweeted out a picture of the ESPN predictions for week 2, of which Bill Connolly, Doug Kazarian, Adam Rittenberg, who's I actually like Adam Rittenberg's work too, but he's actually from Berkeley. He didn't go to Berkeley, but he's actually from the city. And Alex Garbers, they all wrote little blurbs. But then all the other writers, Ashoff, Behrman, Bonagura, Dinich, Hale, Johnson, Kahn Jr., Lowe, Meisel, Schlabach, Van Haren, all picked Washington to win.
Yeah, I think the one that I liked the least was the guy that justified it by calling our secondary good. And
Eason, Alex Scarborough. He said, Cal's secondary is good, but Eason is better. Washington 34-20.
That one really, really got me pissed off. But I'm not going to, I have to, have my own E-Crow moment. I mean, I definitely called it a loss on the podcast last week.
Yeah, so I tweeted that out yesterday at 9:42 a.m. It is now 9:21 p.m. on Monday. It has 147 likes. That's the most likes I've ever gotten on a tweet.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, with 25 retweets. I'm on a roll right now. But yeah, that's actually a good one. That was a good point to start off with, to kind of recap and maybe run through what could have gone wrong. Badly, very badly. All right, I'll say a point off of that, of what you just talked about. The time management by the staff when the final 5 minutes of the game was excellent. Excellent. Especially when we got that Kikoa pass down to the 3-yard line and we didn't call our timeout. We basically I don't know if this is the right word, but we basically bluffed UW. We bluffed Peterson. We're just like, hey, we're down. We're willing to just lower down the clock to like 3 seconds. We're willing to trust our kicker to just hit the field goal from wherever we are. Like, you're gonna have to burn the timeouts if you want to try and get a stop from us, which he did. And then we moved the ball, and then we shifted it to the middle. Then we tried that run, which of course we just talked about, and then Thomas got the 17-yarder to go in, and beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that spills over really well, and just to kind of like highlight not only the time management, but also just like the sequence of downs. So the way that they decided to, I think, move Garbers, move the ball over.
Yeah.
To
so they tried to
hash.
They tried to get into the end zone first.
Yep.
Then they moved on second down. They moved the ball to the middle of the field.
Right.
Then on third down, they tried to score the touchdown.
Yeah.
And then we kicked the field goal.
So what I think you did by doing that is you kind of made I'm sure some of it put the defense in a more relaxed position. It's not like Chris Brown just waltzed into an end zone and they reversed it. I mean, he to his credit, was dragging people with him.
Well, that's probably what the other scare would have been, right? if you didn't play this bluff of trying to force them to use a timeout, is maybe Peterson just let him score. Just open up a lane and just let him score. Yeah. That gives us 30 seconds plus to try and get down the field. Because if they're going to score anyways, whether they score a touchdown or a field goal, we're going to have to score anyways.
I thought about it. And we can flash back a little bit. And when Peterson was originally going for it and then opted for the kick, I was rooting for them to go for it. I would way rather have the defense out and take my chances on the defense winning the game than put the offense in that position. So, I think like I was not worried if they did open it up and let us waltz in, because we completely bottled up Easton. The offense looked, the only offense that they really had that I saw that was impressive was when they were just running the ball, and they still needed 4 downs in order to even be effective with it to get a field goal. So I was like, oh, okay, you just start passing on us after you haven't passed on us all game? Like, nah.
That was true, but for me, I actually wanted them to kick the field goal, because how many times does a kick the likelihood of putting like a quarterback like Eason, and he completed a couple passes to Fuller down the field, and he had that one that he overthrew Fuller, which I think if he had tightened up just a little bit, that would have been an easy touchdown. So I was much more of because they had yards to work with too, right? So you have the space to get behind our defense. I was like, I'd much rather take a chance on a kicker trying to kick a 50-yarder with like the game on his shoulders than, a quarterback who's played in the SEC and is now playing in the Pac-12 with game experience, like just needing to get that first down. Like he doesn't need to throw a touchdown. It's just, I think it was 4th and 6, if I remember correctly. We just get the first down. So I don't know. I personally I wanted to take my chances on the kick. And he doinked it in too. It hit the inside of the uprights.
Wow.
So, all right.
We're on to me, huh?
I think we are. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll go back to the top. Evan Weaver is obviously superhuman. I don't think there's anyone out there that would say anything otherwise.
Bill Connolly in his advanced stats tweet post, and he wrote 3 points above it, and one of them was Evan Weaver's a god.
Yeah. He is superhuman. He was named the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week and the Walter Camp National Defensive Player of the Week.
Yep.
He had 18 tackles, a forced fumble, and 2 tackles for loss. And he was literally everywhere. You would watch a play be on the opposite side of the field and from a tackle that he just made on the other side of the field, and he would then be in on that play. There were plays where he was just like leaping in, even though like the guy was about to go down, and Evan Weaver would have come soaring in out of nowhere. It was nuts to watch. So there's been one player, he's the first player to do that, to win those awards since this player on Cal. And I wanted to see, do you know who that player is? And as a follow-up question,
player of the week for Pac-12 or
Defensive Player of the Week, the Walter Camp.
The National Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah. Or week.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
First player since blank. Okay. And what game was it from that player?
Ooh. And
if you need a clue, I got one.
I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark here.
Okay.
My Cal football knowledge also only goes back to maybe 06, 07. So is it beyond that?
No.
Okay, so it's within that range.
Of between 06, 07 and now?
And now.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say Zach Follett, Tennessee, 07.
More recent.
Oh, more recent.
Yeah.
Mikey Mo, Stanford, 08.
More recent.
Oh, wow.
I have one more clue. All
right, give me a clue.
It's this regime.
This regime? It has to be an Evan Weaver game then. Oh, yeah, I have no idea then.
It's your boy.
It's my boy. I got too many boys on the team.
What?
I got too many boys.
I mean, it's this regime, but the player's no longer here.
It's this regime, but the player is no longer here?
Mm-hmm. And it's your boy.
Oh, Jordan Kanasic.
Oh, yep.
Oh. Which game?
Got any guesses? I can give you the year.
Ole Miss?
2017.
2017? 2 years ago? Yeah, I would say Ole Miss.
Washington State.
Oh. How could we forget the Freaky Friday game?
How could we forget?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, because he had multiple sacks that game.
Yeah, and yeah.
I
he
mean,
was unreal.
multiple defenders had multiple sacks that game, but
And yeah, but we had so many interceptions.
yeah,
That was a great
Ray
game.
Davison had that crazy one where he like dove and caught it with one. Oh man, what a great game! What a great game to be at. Okay. Also, Evan Weaver is second in the country in tackles, solo and assisted combined.
He reminds me, and this is, I mean, they look nothing alike, but he reminds me of Urlacher.
He does.
Just fills up the stat sheets just so fast and effortlessly. It's incredible.
It's like he has the speed of like a modern inside linebacker, but he plays like just an old school one,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Like the ones we grew up watching. It's crazy. Oh, all right. Let's see. My turn. I'm gonna talk about some stats. All right, some stats that what are the two stats that Wilcox believes attributes to wins the most or helps teams win the most?
Turnovers.
Okay, and that's defense.
Yards per carry.
Yards per carry. No, explosive plays.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to go off of that. Turnover margin, +2. And not only is it +2 by addition subtraction, it's +2 flat out. We didn't give up any turnovers.
Yeah.
0 interceptions, 0 fumbles. We actually forced 3 fumbles. I think 3 fumbles from them. We just only recovered 1. Second, part of that, explosive plays. This is a shout out to Vlad because I watched the game and I charted all of the explosive plays, and then my notes app on my iPhone decides to kind of like refresh itself or like break down as I'm writing it, and all goes to moot. Yeah, face palm. So I tweeted out, I was like, does anyone have that off the top of their head? And Vlad was like, I think I have, like, I can count the numbers real quick, which he did for me. So thank you, Vlad. Here's your shout out. This is what they are. There were 7 plays between 10 and 20 yards gained, 4 runs, Garbers with a 13 and 17 yard run, Dancy with an 11, and CBJ with a 10. 3 passes, Crawford with an 11 and a 10 and a 19. And then there were 5 20-plus yard plays, 4 on the ground, and Crawford with the lone pass play that went for 20-plus yards, which was the one that set up the field goal. So you have a total of 12 plays. Do you know how many total plays Cal had?
No.
I will get you that number. Sorry, I just needed to pull up another picture.
And that play that they ran to get Crawford the ball and set up the block that he went underneath.
Yeah,
to
Nico.
spring him.
Yeah.
That was one of the better play designs that I've seen.
One of the things, too, with Nico, which was very smart, is that as soon as he saw Kekoa turn the corner, he didn't push the defender. Because the moment if he had extended his hands, regardless of if he touched him or not, they're going to call a block in the back. Because the defender was already turning, chasing after Kekoa. So great move by Nico there to like just hold up. Just to make sure, like, he has... Just knowing that your teammate has the speed to outrun the other guy. Just being like, yeah, I don't need to touch him.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to score.
So, 12 explosive plays. 10 or 20-plus yards. What was our total plays for the game, you think?
67?
The national average of plays is 69.
What was our total?
56.
Wow.
So 12 out of the 56 plays we ran on offense went for 10 plus or 20 plus yards.
Do you have an idea of how that compares to last year?
I do not. I do not have that off the top of my head.
But where are you at gut feeling? Do you think that's better than last year's game or
way lower?
Way lower.
Way lower. Our explosive plays last year was just in the teens. The whole season.
You're talking about last year's way lower.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last year's way lower. So to have 12 out of the 56 plays against UW, I think that's a solid solid. They made it a point of emphasis this year, right? Is explosive plays. The phrase explosive play too depends on how you interpret it. I think a lot of fans, when they hear explosive play, it's like they want the 50-yard touchdown throw from Davis to D-Rob, right?
Yeah, definitely goes in my head as being one of those.
Yeah, but realistically, it should be counted anywhere between 10 to 20 plus yards, which basically, in effect, gets you either 1 or 2 first downs on a single play. That's what explosive plays do. It's those chunk plays to eat up the yards. Because think about it. Let's say you're on the 40. If you get to the 50-yard line and you don't convert that first down, you have to punt. But if a guy gets you 20 plus yards from the 40-yard line, that lands you within their 40 yards in their territory, you don't need to kick up. You don't need to punt. That's a field goal opportunity. So getting those chunk yards helps you not only sustain the drive, but gets you closer in order to get more points per drive.
Yeah, sure, makes sense.
So
it seems like very situational football.
Mm-hmm. It's very good, very good.
So I think
on to you, sir.
Within that,
yes,
it leads in well to where I think I will provide the dissenting opinion.
I do have a couple of those too.
Okay, sweet. So here I go.
All right.
Week 2, same thing as last week. Garbers has done nothing to inspire confidence. Garbers has done nothing to inspire me to have any confidence in him. He's a game manager in my mind and in my eyes, and it's really all this team needs. But I have a feeling, like my hypothesis is that fan appetite is going to grow for more than that. The better the defense kind of becomes.
Yeah.
And I know he had a good last drive.
He did.
But he still looks like a quarterback that has a noodle arm, which I've been saying. I swear, if any member of the family, I'm going to get blocked again by a second straight Cal quarterback family member. But I just don't. I don't know. I don't see it. But I cannot help but thinking like the first thought after this game was go out and get a quarterback in the recruiting class. Like go out and take this win and be like, why would you commit to Washington? Say what they used to say about us. Why would you commit to Cal? Remember those days, the Sark days? They would literally say, why would you commit to Cal? And laugh. Why don't we go and say, why would you commit to Washington? You have better education. You don't have to put up with lightning storms that take 3 hours in the middle of the summer. And you can come be a star. And we badly need that because there's such a high ceiling that this team can get to when you have somebody that can play this position. And you see the importance of what a defense can do to shut down, the premier level talents. If you pair somebody that did have that ability, I mean, it's one of those things where, winning totally messes up your expectations because when you say things to me like, we're doing the Utah model, I'm like, yeah, great. Give me 8-4. But then I see this game, and I'm like, 8-4. Like, forget 8-4. This team could compete on a national level. And so I think it's one of those things where I know my own frustrations are because my appetite is going to get bigger. And I know that there was progression in this week that should be celebrated. But I also am sticking hard to that perspective where, we're 2 weeks in, and I haven't changed a single thought that I've had from the beginning of the year in regards to our quarterback play.
Yeah, I think those are absolutely valid points. I actually had a point on Garbers here too, which is basically what you just said, just in a glass half full type of sentencing or verbiage. It's Garbers is our cool game manager, doesn't force anything, and plays as the defense gives him space. Right?
Yeah.
It's as our friend Peter out east would say, he's playing the Alex Smith role. Just the cool, calm, collected game manager. Doesn't need to sling it. Got a great defense behind him. Got a great running back behind him. If you need to make throws, it's the simple any throw like within 10 yards. And just make the easy completion and let the guys do the rest. I think we have enough playmakers at wide receiver to be able to do that now. But yeah, I mean, ultimately that comes down to your expectation of what you expected Garbers to be, right?
Yeah.
And that's also that's also just elevated or expanded by the fact that we had guys like Jared and Davis that we've seen over the last 5+ years. And you expect more. You expect your quarterbacks to be like that, not to that to that level, but somewhat close to it. And so yeah, I'm looking at it going, maybe this is Garbers' ceiling. Maybe this is as the best we're gonna get out of this kid.
How many games have we seen from him now? 8?
No, pretty sure it's in the double digits if you include all the games from last year.
10?
Yeah, probably 10 or 11.
It's hard to have 10 games.
He did not play in 2 games last year, which means what? We played 13 games last season, so 11 plus another 2, so he's at 13. Granted, like maybe 6 or 7 of those from last season, he split time with Brandon McIlwain, but yeah, about 13 games in.
I think when you're that far in, you're starting to see. I mean, there will be progression, hopefully. It was weird watching Ross seemingly start well against Utah.
Yeah,
that was like a weird feeling. But then Utah,
they crumbled. Yeah,
got it together. So it's it's just one of those weird things. I mean, there's absolutely zero evidence in my mind to suggest a change in outlook at all. So, and the thing that concerns me about it is going in, and I think someone tweeted this out today. Maybe it was Abby. He said, someone said about this Cal team that they can go into any game. I think it was DeRuyter said that the Cal team can go into any game and win, but they also can't go into any game and not expect to lose.
Yeah.
And that I think is because of our offense. And it's because when I look at this North Texas game, we can't overlook this game, and we can't start looking at Ole Miss and going on the road in the SEC, because the offense could come out and just do nothing for 2 quarters, and we don't score any points, and that is the risk, and that is the 2019 risk of Cal football.
I do say, in terms of that, I feel like the team might have done that for UC Davis in this week, and I think they might have learned their lesson to see how flat they came out and thought they could just win it based off of athleticism.
Sure, that's a good point.
And I also think the staff won't let them get complacent in that. Like they'll probably push them to be more hungry, right? Like just push the whole we're 2-0. We have a team coming in this week, and we have the chance to go 3-0. We're not looking at that SEC game. We're gonna get to 3-0 first. Then we'll look to go 4-0. And it's just you build off of those one. They talk about it all the time. We take it week by week. We take it win by win or loss by loss. So yeah, I don't think they'll overlook him. Maybe some guys on the team might, in terms of their preparation, but yeah, I just don't. I think they learned their lesson at Davis.
Good. We will see on Saturday.
We will. All right. Here's my little spiel on the game flow, in my opinion, as I saw the game. So I did rewatch the game, by the way. So I'm going off of this. I'm not just going off of what I saw in the fourth quarter in my hotel room. Last week, this was weird. Last week, the defense settled in as the game progressed, right? This week, I kind of felt like the offense kind of settled in as the game progressed. Regardless of how many they scored, that's not what I'm talking about. It's just they looked more composed. They looked like they knew what they wanted to do out there, and that's albeit apart from execution of what they wanted to do. But everyone kind of it looks like they kind of know what their roles are, right? Like when Chris Brown's in there, when he gets the ball, he's like, I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm not trying to score a touchdown on every time I get the ball, which he can try to do, but I'm here to get the yards. Dancy's like, I'm just here to make one guy miss and try to get more yards. Like, it kind of had that feel to it where they just kind of, as the game progressed, settled in and was just like, okay, this is the type of play calling that's going to happen. This is when I'm going to be placed in. This is what I'm going to be asked to do. And I'm just going to execute that to my fullest. So I thought that was a nice little plus. And especially with Well, Will Craig is now out for the season. And so we now have probably Mettauer playing in there and then moving Curhan out to left tackle. So, yeah, Mettauer probably left guard, and then we'll move Curhan out to left tackle, and I think that's fine. McCade is a huge dude, too. He's not going to be pushing around that easy. And he didn't play the entire UW game, which, in my opinion, is the silver lining in not having Will Craig this season, is we arguably played arguably the best defensive line we'll see all year, and we played decently well.
Yeah.
Like, not great, not average, but just somewhere right in between there. And so, yeah, I think we'll be okay on that front. There's enough depth and there's enough coaching by Greatwood there that I think we'll fill in.
Same.
But based off of that whole, offense, defense thing, is that I'll talk about the running backs. So both running backs, did you know, did not lose a single yard in this game. If you look at the stat sheet, they're all gains. There's no losses. There's 0 yards lost on both. But here's the carry distribution: 16 for Chris Brown Jr., 7 for Marcel Dancy, and 13 for Garbers. That includes sacks. So I think he's sacked 4 times. So if you exclude that, he ran maybe 9. So that's a pretty good distribution, in my opinion. If we're considering CBJ to be our lead back,
it's way better than Davis.
Oh yeah, way better than the 30. So that's why I also think maybe it was just a ploy. Maybe it was just a ploy to just be like, yeah, we're not going to show off Dancy's skill set in this game.
Yeah,
Chris Brown's running so well, and he can kind of get the 36 carries to get his cadence building into UW, and which he did. That was solid 16 carries, but also all 3 guys who ran the ball, Garbers, CBJ, and Marcel Dancy. What do you think their individual averages were at rushing?
I think I saw Chris Brown was above 5. I think everyone might have been above 5.
Exactly. All 3 guys above 5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Which is great to see. So, triple option?
Yeah. After watching the Army-Michigan game, sure, dude.
Yeah, why not?
Let's do it.
Why not? And then one more thing based off the offense. I have a little, addendums to the offense point I had. I think Kekoa Crawford, is our new kind of Ainoa. I feel like he's the clutch wide receiver guy that we're just going to go to when we are in times of need. Like, he's just going to get open somehow. Which he did against his first touchdown last week. His second one was, of course, we say it was a bad throw by Garbers. By all accounts, it was. But to, focus on it with the tip and keep your toes, inbounds as he's, tiptoeing, leaning out of bounds to catch that ball to call it a TD. And then this run here, he had the smarts to cut back inside, even though Nico, I think, kind of missed this block, but just did enough on the little chip to get him that space and get down to the 3. He carried a defender for, I think, close to 3 or 4 yards. I think he's that guy.
Yeah, it would be great. I think so far it's definitely proven that. And it was interesting being in New Orleans with a Michigan fan who was telling me, he was like, oh yeah, that guy Kekoa guy, he's good. He's a big time recruit that we had. He just said he had trouble with drops. Yeah. So that's the big thing, that's the rap out on right now, is from a diehard Michigan fan. He just had issue with drops.
I think his targets catch from the Davis game was 8 and 5. I think this game was 9 and 5.
Wow.
So, not terrible in my opinion. I'd have to go back and chart all the passes. They're not all catchable balls.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, your next point.
I just wanted to take a brief aside.
Okay.
And definitely say that I think you called last week that the Davis game defensive game plan was vanilla. And that we weren't doing any of the stunts or disguises that we would do against an opponent like Washington. Mm-hmm. And that was literally to a T, spot on. Exactly what happened in this game.
They brought everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that it was incredibly fortuitous that we got Washington early.
Yep.
it allowed us to send, that last drive, a ton of pressure. And Easton just didn't have rapport yet with a single receiver to just throw it up in one-on-one coverage. And, we definitely had to benefit on one of those drops over the middle. But
yeah, by Fuller.
Yeah.
In the 8 seconds and on that final drive for them to get the field goal. There were 2.
Yeah. So getting them early felt super important in that regard. And it was one of those things. It was a nice perspective to have too, because when I was watching the Michigan game with a diehard Michigan fan and was watching them be like, oh, we're going to lose to Army. How could we lose to Army? And I was like, well, we're playing Washington. So I was like, if we lose this game, it's kind of whatever. Because
we'll move on.
No one expected us to win this game. And it's also the second week of the season. You can afford a loss like that. With the loss you can't afford is the loss to Army,
Yeah.
So I liked it too from that perspective. It felt like, I'm sure Stanford is bummed right now, but they're not going to, if anyone is thinking they're just going to like fold up and be like, oh, we lost Pac-12 North because we lost to SC. Like, no way. Not a chance. Washington does hurt a lot from this. But even still, like, they might be able to come back, and if they rattled off a winning streak, they'd probably pop right back up to, being in the top team position that they were in before. So.
The only part of this that feels good over the next couple of weeks, or not the only part, but one of the biggest parts, is that for the next, 3 weeks, right? Yeah. For the next 3 weeks, when we're looking at the standings, we're going to be at the top of the Pac-12 North for the next 3 weeks. That's a very good look.
Yeah, it's a great look. Go out and recruit quarterbacks. Go out and recruit them.
On that note, we actually do have a quarterback already committed to the class. We have a 3-star dual threat. The 31st best, 30th best.
I want a 5-star. Give me a 5-star quarterback, please. Please give me a 5-star quarterback.
All right. I have a negative note about the game.
Okay.
Special teams coverage was a very big issue. We bled yards on kickoff returns. A lot. I don't know what happened, but let me put up. I have their average.
You can take that a step further and say special teams has been mediocre for 2 straight games.
Washington's,
and it's also been holding us back in S&P Plus.
Yep. Washington's average field position in this game was 35.2.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. They're basically, if we're calling every kickoff a touchback,
they're getting
10 yards.
Yeah. It was big.
Oy.
Yeah, I think I tweeted something out about Regal needs to spend the lightning break getting his guys back in check.
Yeah.
It's hard to criticize special teams while having your kicker win you the game. But definitely from a coverage standpoint, I think there's a lot to be desired. It is one of those units though that is susceptible to early season issues because you are going to play some of your younger guys in those spots most often. And so it takes them a couple games to kind of get used to the game flow, and then over time it gets better and better. So obviously Regal is like one of our top coaches, so I'm more than willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. But you hate to see it again in that type of game. And that's probably a great place to talk about the negatives of playing early and playing an opponent like that early, or is that some of that type of stuff is present, whereas if it was a November game, it might not be there.
Do you have any other ones?
Points?
Yeah.
Plenty.
Yes.
I
got 2 more after this, but the 2 can kind of be merged into one. So
yeah, mine are pretty easy. I think I just wanted to get your thoughts, Dancy and Brown. If you were head coach, who do you put in at the end of the game?
Oh, at the end of the game?
So when we got the ball to the 3, Crawford, who are you putting in?
If it was the game flow of that Washington game, right? Not just in an isolated 3rd down and 3 from the goal, 3 to the end zone. I'd have to put in Dancy at that point, just because I'd have to ride the hot hand. He's got 2 touchdowns, one on a designed touchdown run, the other one on he just bounced it back counter to the left side.
Totally broken play.
And he just got out there, which, by the way, key block by Garbers on that run.
Oh,
holy moly. That guy, he lowered his shoulder and just just was like, nope, you're not getting anywhere near my running back.
I watched that play maybe 8 times because it was great to just like replay it, and then I was like, oh, what was this play design? I was like trying to understand like what was happening and why Dancy was like.
Yeah, when he hit
like running into
his right tackle, and then you were like, "Oh, okay, this play's broken."
Yeah, I was like, "What is happening here? Is this design?" And then, and then Garbers comes up, and I watched it the first time, and you're like, "Oh, that's a good block." I watched it the second time, I was like, "Oh, that was a great block." I watched it the fourth time, and I saw the defender like roll, like actually get pancaked almost, and I was like, "That is embarrassing for the defender." It was awesome. It was great. It was
the awareness by Chase to run ahead and to see that and to hit him, like,
game-changing play.
Yep, absolutely game-changing play. And then also, but I think you'd have to run with Dancy there. But I think the RIP moment for any Washington defender was that Chris Brown stiff arm, number 16, whoever number 16 is on the UW defense. Addicted to Quack, ATQ, the Oregon SB Nation website, tweeted at me with that. They were like, he should just retire there, and I was like, might as well just have his tombstone right there. Like, he just buried him straight into the ground. And we're gonna see a lot more of that.
Yeah, I can't wait. I hope there's t-shirts.
Yeah,
you gotta love the Oregon fans and how much they despise Washington because they all come out to cheer us.
Yep,
it's really awesome.
It's great. It's great.
Really great.
All right, here's my pretty much my last one. So it's kind of two. Do you want to hear the good one? They're both about the defense, but do you want to hear the good one first or the bad one first?
Let's go with the dissenting opinion.
Okay. The bad one is Brett Johnson is amazing, but in this game clearly showed his conditioning issues. Just not conditioning in the sense of like Torrey Beckton and the staff has done a thing. It's just playing in a college game, like his second college game ever, and like becoming a starter on the defensive end in a game like this with like their offensive line just, experienced and playing pretty well. And you saw him towards the end of the game, especially on that last drive to get them the field goal. Like it panned to the defensive lineman, and you just saw him like panting, like and like gassed. And so I don't think it'll be an issue. Like I think his body will gain that cadence. Like of a rhythm. Like they talk about with soccer players, right? Like some guys actually say like entering a game as fresh legs with 15 minutes left in the game is harder than to be playing for 60 plus minutes because your breaths are longer. Like your legs might be tired, but your whole cardiovascular system has found that rhythm of when to run, when to rest, and all that. So I feel like he'll get to that point, but I'm just weary of we might be asking so much of a young 17, 18-year-old from a physical standpoint.
So when you say conditioning issues, are you focusing not so much on issues? These issues haven't been documented or something like that. This is more of just like conditioning as a true freshman and getting used to the college schedule.
Yeah, that part.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like the staff didn't do a good enough job of like prepping his body to play college sports. It's just his body's just not used to like when it should be giving its all. Like when it should be like recovering and just making sure like his body is constantly in check. It doesn't know how to play a full 60-minute football game.
And I think that's fair. I think that the thing about that game in particular was you did on that drive see a lot of blitzes to kind of get pressure on the quarterback and then us just being like, yep, we'll island our DBs. And Trey had this...
the PI. Mm-hmm.
That
one too.
Like Trey, he had this one play like where I think it was like one of the third downs where we did send a lot of guys and Easton threw it out there and they ended up getting the catch. And I swear it was like he was a millisecond late.
Oh yeah. I do remember what you're talking about.
So perfectly timed that you almost just had to tip your cap to the offense because I thought if it was a half a second difference that he almost could pick that up. Could have picked that ball off the way that he broke that quickly. So I think highlighting the defensive line for sure, and hopefully, a North Texas, Ole Miss, and even like an ASU, like back to back beefs everybody up a little bit. and somebody shows out. So I think that's a great thing to like look for in these next couple of games, is like hope that, it doesn't have to be Brett Johnson, but just hope that somebody on the D line, like Luke, like that starts to really show up as a problem.
Yeah.
I think of
it's like you just want one of those like names that the offensive coordinator just kind of, the opposing offensive coordinator just puts on the board.
Yeah.
Like from a defensive lineman, like talking to the O-line. This guy, we're doubling him every snap, like on the defensive line.
I can't believe I've forgotten. I'm thinking of like Looney.
Yeah.
And, his progression was kind of like one of those guys that ended up making a name for himself, I feel like, his third year, and it was a little bit delayed. Like, we could use something like that to really happen, and I'm still waiting on that Gabe Cherry breakout.
Yeah, same here. From defensive end.
Yeah.
All right. And so my last point based off of that is that this defense statistically won't get to the point that it was last year. But judging from this game and the UC Davis game, this defense is definitely better because, one, they're more athletic. Two, they're bigger. And three, they're just longer. Like everyone that they play across. Someone tweeted out, who was it? I can't remember who tweeted. Oh, it actually might have been Bill Connolly. But he tweeted out, he's like, how is Cal getting away with playing like 7 guys that are 6'5" and 275 on defense? Like, how is that possible? And it's pretty much a testament to the recruiting and just the coaching up of those guys. And so that's why I think this defense is going to be better. But just statistically, I don't think we'll get there because our defense, at least from our defensive perspective, our defense won't ever be overlooked.
Yeah.
By any offensive coordinator the rest of the way.
And I honestly think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to move away from the defense of last year, in the sense I would be concerned if we were still, like, not concerned, but you remember that defense that we had in the Dykes era?
Which
where
one?
We got we had all the turnovers kind of go our way. And so
yeah. That was the Jared's last year.
2015 year.
Because we were leading that. I think we were number 1 or number 2 in the country in interceptions leading into that Utah game.
Yeah, and exactly. And so that sort of felt like an identity of luck.
Yeah.
And what I like about this defense in particular is the identity shifts and changes as it should. And it can be a defense that plays a little bit of that, not like, it's not prevent, but it's like bend, not break.
Well, I mean, it's the Tedford defenses that were really good, right?
Yeah.
The whole bend, not break thing.
Yep.
If you get a solid drive and you score 3 points, like, all right, that's fine. We can live with that. But then there are also drives where we're just going to shut you down and you're not going to get anything. You're going to have to go 3 and out.
And it's so much fun to watch.
It is.
It's just a ton of fun to watch. And I would take it every day of the week over the offense that we got to see in the Dykes era. The offense was cool. This is just way more fun for me. I love the idea of being able to take an offense that looks like the offense that we used to run and just completely bottle them up. It's incredible.
I was reading a soccer book the other day, and I think this is a good point that also flips over to football. Is what they were talking about was that when you're running a defense, and if you have a good defense, the reason that's harder is because a defense is reactionary. You're basing it, you have to react based on what the other offense is going to do. And it's easier to get an offense up to par because you're the ones executing it. And it's based on how well you execute. Whereas a defense, if you don't teach them the right rotations, the right calls, the right, they're talking about soccer. So, the back line, like maintaining its structure, and guys knowing like when to pressure, when to back off, then that defense could crumble instantly because you have to react based on what the other offense is doing. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now. Is this defense is so good and their habits and everything are just so spot on that we're reacting to whatever the offense does to a T.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, this is basically what we talked about, is that all the offense needs to do is just go out and execute. Like, we're not asking the offense to go out and throw 50-yard bombs and, make negative 3-yard plays into touchdowns. Like, we're not asking for individual skill. It's just string together, maybe 4 or 5 good drives that leads us to 7 or 3 points every game, and we're in a good spot. Like, we're not asking to be a gunslinging offense by any means. I kind of feel like that's where we're trending towards.
Yeah, totally. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I think, and I'll take it.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes full circle, and this might be a good place to close in that it's sort of depends on where your expectations start going.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking at this team saying, wow, if they could only score 30 to 5 points a game, what if we did have that offense, how good they could be? You're totally entitled and correct. It would be awesome. But I think it's that thought that it pushes us into a world in which we are not. And what we are is, the Utah model. And like keeping myself in check and my own expectations will be really important as the season goes on. But also like using opportunities like a team like that we're going to run into next week this Saturday as an opportunity to get better, as an opportunity to kind of show a little bit more life. But even within that, like, I'm not expecting anything too much from North. I think we might win this game 30-10.
I mean, we're 14-point favorites by
30,
Vegas.
30-10. Maybe.
But we were also 14-point underdogs to UW. So
yeah,
it's crazy how that flips.
I'm not going into this saying it's an automatic win.
Nope. No win is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my closing thought on this is that a couple weeks ago, or actually maybe after the Davis game too, people were like angry that like, some of us, said that Garbers might be decent. Like, he might not be bad, but he might not be great. And people are like, what does that mean? Like, that's not good enough and blah, blah, blah. And, everyone saw the Davis performance and they were like, wow, we're going to be even more trash against a better defense that we have to play. But then in terms of like everything, we kind of played the same.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
So
exactly.
So what if that's the case this year? What if, regardless of the opponent, our team is our offense just scores somewhere between 25 to 27 points a game?
It's the running game.
Yeah.
And it's gonna have to be the O-line. And that's why the Will Craig injury is really hurts. And it's gonna have to be the running game.
Yeah,
and
some guys are gonna have to step up.
Yeah, and if we make that jump in that department, it's just gonna be a super fun season. It's probably gonna be in the range of 6 to 8 wins. I mean, 6 is ridiculous. I don't think we're only gonna win 6 games, but whatever, for the sake of being maybe a little bit realistic. If you have that, and we'll take it, dude. The best days that we've had at Cal, at least in my minds, have been when we were rolling out these running backs like Javid Best, like Shane Vereen.
Started with J.J. Arrington and that.
There's Echamandu before that. Like, it was a very fun era that was built behind running the ball, and then we were blessed with hitting on Aaron Rodgers, and then we had pretty much like a lot of busts. Like Nate Longshore was supposed to be good. He was never really
good for a little bit.
He was all right, but like he had like Rodgers hype and it just wasn't there. Kevin Riley came in Elite 11 and like literally couldn't have been more disappointing. And then you bring in Zach Maynard with part of Keenan Allen, and then you have that. And in a way, it's very interesting because if you looked at like Keenan Allen versus Chase Garbers and plug Chase Garbers in for Keenan Allen, we're probably a better team having Garbers at quarterback because Zach Maynard was so turnover prone.
Yeah,
and also just horribly inaccurate. So I think where I'm going with all this is just sort of like, and telling myself on a re-listen later in the year that it's okay if Garbers isn't great. We just need the run game to be good. If the run game starts to look a little wobbly,
yeah, that's true. It's very true.
Start to sound the alarm a little bit.
All right. Well, that wraps up our talk for the UW game. We have a bunch of questions, so I'm thinking what we should do with these questions isn't take our time with them. Well, I'm just going to ask you them, this week, and I'll just ask you. I'm going to ask you all the questions this week. You're going to answer all of them. Next week, when we get questions, you ask me all the questions, and I'll answer all of them.
Hot seat?
Yeah, pretty much. But
call this the hot seat segment.
Hot seat segment.
Sponsored by Hot Ones on YouTube. Please send us hot sauce.
Please. Or hot wings. Either or.
Yep, we'll take both.
But all right, so just like maybe 1 or 2 sentences on each thing that I ask you about. Good?
Yeah.
Here we go. How big a problem is the O-line?
I don't think it's a problem at all.
Will the second and third string guys be up to the job as they seem to be in the second half?
The second and third string guys?
Yeah.
Be up to the task?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you more than I just gave on the O-line. Yes, and the reason why is because the staff gets everybody to compete at every single level. So we had next man up the last year. I expect no different this year.
All right. How much credit does Baldwin deserve for the second half success, and does that give you encouragement?
The some play design was actually pretty nice. I do think he's scheming better this year. We haven't had as many complaints there. I'll start praising Baldwin when we score 35 points in a game.
Is Garbers improving fast enough?
Definitely not.
All right. Does your win total change?
Nope. And for the record, that was 8 wins regular season and a bowl win for me.
Should I get my hopes up for the big game?
Of course, we're gonna win.
I'm gonna say actually who this is from. Nick Krantz, our Monday column writer, says a segment laughing at Stanford and UCLA would be appreciated because one, Stanford lost to a UCLA team that barely beat Fresno State last week.
Sorry, SC.
SC, sorry.
Yeah.
Stanford lost to an SC team that barely beat Fresno State last week and was just drubbed by them. And then UCLA loses 23-14 to San Diego State. They lost 24-14 to Cincinnati the week before.
And Cincinnati got demolished by Ohio State.
So here's our laughing segment. We're gonna laugh for a second on 3. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Your laugh was better. I was gonna go with ha 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 ha. And also to that one writer that tweeted out that Cal was going to lose against UC Davis and then went through UCLA losing in back-to-back weeks. Yes, karma. That's all I'm going to say.
Is North Texas a trap game?
Totally. Yeah, 100%. I mean, you have Ole Miss all of a sudden randomly looks good in S&P Plus, and it's on the road, SEC game, and you're rolling off a big win. You have an inconsistent offense. You roll into that too confident and, weird things will happen. So, yeah, totally. I mean, great way to kind of knock us back a peg. So I hope that doesn't happen. And, as you said, like staff is ready because I think they will be, but you just don't know.
I will say this. I just wanted to interject here. Historically, over the last 3 years with Wilcox, we have been terrific against air raid offenses.
Yep.
All right. One guy asked, what's the health status of Ashton Davis? As we mentioned, or I don't know if we mentioned, but I don't think it's anything big. Wilcox on his presser today didn't talk about Ashton Davis. He did talk about Will Craig being out for the season. So if he's not mentioning it or saying like he's nicked up or anything, then yeah, he's a full go. And our last question. How many points will be scored against North Texas, and what margin of victory against North Texas would you view as a success?
30-10, and I'd take it as 30-10 was what I said before, and I'd take that as a big win.
What's the bare like minimum you would view as a successful win?
21-7, and even then I don't know. 21
like a 2 touchdown. You want more than a 2 touchdown win.
I think I'd be better with like 24-7. Just something that's like more definitive.
Yeah.
So like 28-14. I don't care if we give up 14 points. 28-14. I'd be.
Well, I don't mind the 28-14 if that last touchdown comes in garbage time. Like in the last like 6 minutes or something. We just throw in last like 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Throw in all our subs because we're already up and there's no way they can come back with that many points.
Yeah, so. I mean I'm fine with all those. I think the big thing about this game is as you said, execution, and then looking for the progression. So if we start to see the progression, great. If not, then yeah, it has one of those weird feelings about it. So hope we take care of business.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I think I had one more question.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, from Nick Shadow Sandrock. his question
Which
was? And we'll throw it your way.
I didn't see that one.
What bowl game are we going to? And what time will our game be on New Year's Day?
I think he's trying to infer that we're going to the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
When we're playing that game. In all honesty and all real talk, though, ESPN does their bowl predictions every week, and we were placed into the Holiday Bowl against, I believe, Wisconsin.
Awesome. Love that. Yeah. That's great.
It's a battle of the run games. Chris Brown Jr. versus JJ Taylor. So, yeah, I don't know. That would be fun. San Diego would be great. I'd love to, but I'm not ready to say that we're gonna smell roses. Ask me again halfway through the season, and I'll probably be better. Yeah, I'll be in a better situation to tell you based on how we've done so far by that point.
Yeah, it's a huge first step was winning at Washington.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Trey said that this win or this game, if we won, would change the trajectory of the program into a higher hemisphere, into the stratosphere, basically.
We already have a good recruiting class.
Yeah, and I think we did that. We just placed ourselves just on the map with this win, and especially because more people were talking about the game because of what ensued, like with the 2-hour delay and everything. People were talking about the game a lot more, even though most of the people had gone to sleep by then.
A lot of people were, I mean, I think Chris Fowler even mentioned it, and Herb Street mentioned it. Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it, and Brad Gilbert's tweeting about it. I was like, oh, this is great. Here's
my last stat from the Cal UW game, and the NFL started this week too, so it's a little combination of both. Cal had more first downs against UW than the Browns had against the Titans.
Oh,
woohoo!
Poor Browns fans.
Oh, so much hype.
So much hype.
So much hype.
So disappointing.
All right, well, that wraps it up for us here on the Golden Blogs podcast, the Bearcast. As usual, you can find us at CaliforniaGoldenBlogs.com, on Twitter at GoldenBlogs, myself at Rob11HWANG. You can find Andy at
Andy J Beast Mode.
You can find us on Instagram at Golden Blogs. You can find us on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. Those are the only SoundCloud. Those are the only places we're available right now. But subscribe, follow, share, like, do whatever. I looked for the comments. I didn't find any comments for you to read this week. But if you leave us a comment, Andy will read them on the air this week.
Oh, we're promising that now.
We're promising that now.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, until someone does it, might as well.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
Let's roll it on out.
All right. So that's it.
See you in Berkeley, Saturday, 1:15.
Ooh, early start. Not really, but
1:15, 1:25.
1:15.
Let's get it.
Here we go. And as always, go Bears.
Go Bears.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.